From the studios of Staten Island Community Television, you're watching In the Bleachers, the television show for the world's most passionate sports fans. Hello, everyone. I'm the guy who originated March Madness, also known as Jaime Hixson. And hopefully, I've got my dear friend joining me on the phone.
Yes, the hardest, baddest, sexiest man on cable access TV who I know would say, yes, you are the originator of March Madness, because every time the Knicks are being talked, you go March and you go Madness on them. So, yes, you are the originator of March Madness.
Yeah, but that's not the reason why, man.
Let me explain something to you. Let me explain. This is going to be good. Did you hear the call of the Knicks and Lakers?
No, I did not.
Did you think in the Sacramento Kings, I think it was the Sacramento Kings call, it was 125-123, and they acted as if it was real. It was another March Madness type of deal. People were screaming and yelling.
I can imagine that.
And the call, the New York Knicks win! The New York Knicks win! The New York 125-123, and I'm going, these are two last place teams.
Yeah.
But I guess it's because they want to stick it to LeBron. But because LeBron I think he wanted to come here at one point, but he was never interested.
He was never, ever interested in making his way to New York whatsoever. After that one meeting that he had with management, he knew to avoid them like the plague. Exactly.
So that's why. But even with the Lakers, who's got pretty good management, because the Jerry Busses and so forth, they've always
things were always good only with Dr. Buss. But after he passed away and his son and his daughter took over, things have been complete and utterly abysmal. They don't know what they're doing. It seems like they're trying to put together a fantasy team instead of an NBA playoff team.
Well, she actually tried to buy her own team at one point.
You're talking about Jeannie.
She wanted to prove to everyone else that she could do it.
You're talking about Jeannie Buss, right?
Yeah, Jeannie Buss.
Mm-hmm.
And with Phil Jackson on her side, can you really blame him?
Yeah.
Even though he wasn't the greatest GM in the world, but I'm sure he can spot one or two types of talent to some degree. But let me ask you, when Kristaps Porzingis was spotted, did you agree with it? Or did you go, you know what, he's just another European player, and do you think he's a bust? Or do you think he's going to be a great player?
He has a chance to be a good player once he recovers 100% from his knee injury. He's not a bust, at least not totally, because the only thing that's going against him is the fact that he can't even play 80 games a year. The most he's ever played was 73. That's the one knock on him.
Well, remember where he came from. He came from the European League. You don't have to play much. You don't even have to play really hard. And the schedule was really light at the time.
Yeah.
So that's what you have to remember. And now that he's bulked up, and, you know, he's had to bulk up now more so because of the tear that he had in his knee. So he has to work on not only his bottom half of his body, but his upper body.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, he may look like a thin toothpick still, but that's a solid toothpick.
Yeah.
You know, just like Frank and Nikita and all them other guys that went into the weight room. They had a picture of all these guys, and I'm going, damn, this is a muscle magazine. This isn't a basketball team.
Well, naturally, they're going to have to spend a little time in the weight room to try and get stronger. That's one thing. But another thing is seeing how these guys do in the more Americanized game for 80 games. That's what I really want to see out of these guys.
Well, the truth too, because you know.
Because keep in mind, in Europe, they very rarely ever stress defense. Not only that, but there is very, very little physicality in the European game to begin with. It's not
Right.
like over here where there's a lot of big bodies banging around.
That's true, but you know, you would think that it'd be a little bit more Americanized, considering that before it used to be 3 Americans per team. Now I don't know if they still do that anymore.
You mean in
where
Europe?
Only a limited amount of certain American players.
You mean in Europe?
Yes,
I
in the
think
European leagues.
I think they've cut it down to just 1 or 2. And it's
Now
not just
it's
Europe
1?
either. It's not just Europe either. It's in South America. It's China. It's Asia. South Korea, Japan, Australia too. Australia has a pretty decent basketball league. They'll only allow maybe 1 or 2 foreign players per roster.
Because I thought it used to be 1 at one point, then they increased it to about 3 at least. But wow. But anyway, it's I'm telling you, it's getting crazier and crazier. And now that March Madness has started, what do you think of the brackets, and what do you think of 1, 2, 3, and 10?
Well, as far as the overall number 1 seeds, Duke, North Carolina, Gonzaga, and also Virginia, I don't really have a problem with it. Duke being the overall number 1 seed was pretty much right on the money, especially considering that they just stormed into the tournament with a really, really big hot streak, and they wound up getting themselves pretty much coasting their way, except for in the North Carolina game, into the ACC tournament. Not only that, but there's still the band, or the 2 kids that all of the fans want to see, Zion Williamson and R.J. Barrett. North Carolina, I don't think was too much of a problem. Of course, as you can tell here, if you're watching on television, my alma mater, St. John's, basically backed into the tournament after losing 4 of their last 5 games, including in the Big East tournament, which, by the way, was won by Villanova.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as potential Cinderellas, I heard some really good things about Florida State because they've got some really good backcourt play, and they're also very, very athletic, and they can really score the basketball. Plus, they're really, really quick, both offensively and defensively. The question is, can they make enough big plays down the stretch of a game when they're supposed to? I've also heard good things about Murray State, which has the kid Ja Morant, a potential lottery pick. Murray State could be a team that might be able to make some noise and maybe win 1 or 2 games.
Now I know why they made the big stink, because Hexonia blocked LeBron James just when he was about to shoot. He was going in for the basket, and he was about to take a pump shot, and Hexonia blocked it.
That's probably the only great defensive play that Mario Hezonja is ever going to make in his entire career.
But he blocked it, and that was it. That was the greatest block of all time. It's just like the greatest, the greatest dunk of all time was Kiki Vandeweghe. They always say the John Starks one, the Michael Jordan one. No. For the New York Knicks is the great Kiki Vandeweghe, because who knew he would get up?
Oh, brother. Well,
but no, I think you're right about the March Madness. Now, how many teams are there? Is it 16 now?
There's 68 teams in this tournament.
68 teams.
Yep.
And it used to be how many before? Was it the same?
If you want to go really, really back to when the tournament started 80 years ago. This is the 80th anniversary of the NCAA tournament. There used to be 8 teams in the tournament. Then it gradually grew to 16, then 32, then 48, then 64. For a couple of years, it was up to 65, and I think about 5 years ago, they raised it to 68 teams. So the tournament officially starts tomorrow. They're going to have 2 games tomorrow and 2 games on Wednesday, and that's when St. John's plays. St. John's is playing Arizona State.
Now, let me ask you this. Now that the big bomb has been dropped, now we've all known about the big bomb that has been dropped, but we've all known this from before, but now it's been a big bomb. Do you know which one I'm talking about? The bomb about the college kid getting, paying...
If you're talking about that major scandal in which a bunch of coaches have gotten arrested, then yes.
Besides those, but I'm talking about the legacy. That if you're from that alma mater, you get in before that person, or if you buy them a gym or something of that nature, you get in. Your kid will get in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now all of a sudden, this has become big news. This always happened throughout the years.
This has been going on.
This
has been going back a good 60 years. Going back to when City College won not just the national title but the NIT title. There was a major point shaving and betting scandal that was going on in the city, and it killed the game for a long, long time.
It still does to some degree because again, you're talking about the college game is supposed to be a pure game. But when you're not making any money and you're trying to get the best player to get on that team, you'll say, here's a car, I'll support you, just shut up. The same with these kids. Just because they're, let's say, juniors, they're Hector Bosa Jr., and I went to Yale. So that makes you already automatic to become a Yale guy because you're a legacy of mine. So, and just because you're a legacy, that doesn't mean you're going to get the best of grades either.
Yeah.
But I'm just going by what a lot of people have said, and I'm going, what are these people so surprised about? This has been going on for years with sports, and now that they find out that the legacy thing is going on, now it's supposed to be a bigger scandal than the sports one. It's always happened.
Yeah.
But going back to basketball and so forth, because this does have a tie-in. You said it was 8 teams, then it has become 86. So when does
68.
it dwindle down to 12 per side afterwards?
It's 68 teams.
And then it dwindles down. It dwindles down to the brackets. Up to what time when does it hit the brackets afterwards?
We officially get to the brackets on Thursday, when it goes down to
Thursday.
64.
And this is the rough times where the kids have to study for their midterms, for some of them. For those that are doing it legitimately, great, more power to you. For those that are doing it, great. Yeah, somebody's taking your test for you, fine. Do it any way you want. But the point is, do you think that they should be... Now, that's something that I've always questioned, too, which is, why should they do it in the month where they have to have exams?
Oh, that's been going on for years.
I know, but why do you think they should do it?
Why should they do it?
Do you know the origin of that?
The origin of having games in March, you mean?
The origin of having games in March, where these poor kids have to actually study while they're playing basketball. Because finals and so forth, midterms of finals are in March. So how did that get started?
I think that it started when they expanded the tournament many years ago. It went from 16 to 32. I think when they went to 32 teams is when they started to really emphasize playing the games in March. Not only that, but the origin of the term March Madness itself doesn't even apply to the college game. It applies to the high school game. There was a reporter in Indiana many years ago who used to call the Indiana State tournament March Madness. And the nickname was so catchy that it wound up being adopted, so to speak, by the college game.
So it started from a high school?
It started in high school. The term March Madness originated in high school with the Indiana State tournament, and then it gradually would grow in the college game for probably the time when it got really, really, really big was when Magic Johnson played Larry Bird in the national championship game 40 years ago, which, by the way, this is the 40-year anniversary of that famous Michigan State versus Indiana State game. That's when March Madness really, really started to grow, because you had two superstar players who wound up meeting each other in the championship game, which at the time was played in Salt Lake City. And even though Indiana came into the game with an undefeated record, Michigan State was the team to beat simply because of the fact that they had Magic. Mm-hmm. And as it turns out, Michigan State wound up winning that game by 11 points. And that was probably when the NCAA tournament really, really took off. If I'm not mistaken, I think they had 48 teams at that time.
So let me ask you, March Madness is not like football where they have the Cotton Bowl, the Gator Bowl. They don't have as many bowls as they do.
Not even.
So
they play the game across 2 weeks, and helping matters is the fact that television coverage has been expanded. It's gone from just on CBS to TBS, TNT, True TV. In fact, True TV is going to have the first 4 games tomorrow and Wednesday.
Well, now there's going to be a lot more coverage because ESPN 1 will take it, ESPN 2 will take it, so your favorite basketball team should be covered. The only one I've never seen is Wagner College on TV.
That's because Wagner College not only has made the tournament once, they've gotten on ESPN maybe once a year. And if not ESPN, then maybe CBS Sports Network. And I'm talking about the cable network, not the television network.
Yeah, I know, but I've never seen them on TV. That's my point. They're supposed to be a Division I team, and you would figure being a Division I team, they should be on more, and they only get one shot.
Well, that's because they're coming from a mid-major conference, which is the Northeast. The Northeast Conference doesn't have their own television contract. So the schools basically have to negotiate with either ESPN or the CBS Sports Network just to try and get one game on.
And if not, they'll
be on one of ESPN's streaming services, which is either ESPN3 or ESPN Plus.
Oh, like the great CTV contracts that we're only shown more on Staten Island and you shouldn't be in Brooklyn or in Queens and so forth, like other cable access shows. Yeah, I figured probably the same guy negotiating that too. But my point is, it's kind of fun to see that. It's kind of fun. You see these guys in action, mm-hmm. and they play every day. And then when you get to the NBA, because the bodies are different, they can't play the entire amount of the time that they're used to. Now,
right.
It's 3 quarters, isn't it? It's not. Is it 2 halves now, or is it 3 quarters?
It's always been 2 halves.
It's always been
from
2
the
halves.
very beginning. It's always been 2 halves.
How many minutes?
Although in the women's game, in the women's college game, they've been playing 4 10-minute quarters.
In the women's division, how's the brackets coming along?
Well, as expected, UConn is the number 1 seed after coasting through the American tournament. It's UConn, I think. South Carolina has also made the tournament as well. And so has Baylor and Notre Dame and I think Tennessee.
So they're basically the same. Do you know off the top of your head any Any sleepers?
Any sleepers in the men's tournament or the women's tournament?
Women's.
If I had to guess, I would probably have to say Mississippi State, which is the defending champion. Everybody wants to sleep on them, but
defending champions are sleepers? How does that happen?
Don't be surprised, because it seemed like they were the team to beat last year, along with UConn. But it seems like this year, after the upset, UConn has been a little bit more prepared and much stronger on the front line for this tournament run. And everyone seems to be forgetting about Mississippi State this time.
Yeah, let me ask you, how about the Brooklyn Nets right now? How are they holding up? We still
Not
got 8
good.
spots?
Not good whatsoever. They're doing a big, big road trip out west, and they've already lost to Oklahoma City, Utah, and last night they lost a really, really disappointing game to the Clippers at the buzzer. Lou Williams wound up making a 3 at the buzzer to cut off a Nets comeback. The Nets actually had a 19-point lead in the first half, but the Clippers wound up getting great play from, believe it or not, Danilo Gallinari, and also Lou Williams, and also Montrezl Harrell, who's been one of their unsung heroes playing on the front line. So the Clippers wound up changing the game in the second half. They really, really defended the Nets well, especially on the interior. D'Angelo Williams had a phenomenal game for them once again. He's been the shining star for that team the whole season. The problem for the Nets was Spencer Dinwiddie did nothing for them last night. And it was
saying that Lou Williams had an unreal game.
Yes, he did.
Yesterday.
Lou Williams has been their best player ever since they traded away Chris Paul and Blake Griffin and let DeAndre Jordan go. Lou Williams has emerged as their best player now. And the Clippers are actually a lot more enjoyable to watch this time than the Jordan Paul teams of the past. Mm-hmm. And it's not just Lou Williams either. It's Danilo Gallinari. It's also Montrezl Harrell, like I mentioned before. What's that?
That was supposed to be the Knicks' savior.
He was supposed to be the savior. I mean, he gave them 8.5 good years, but they just could not. They couldn't even so much as get to a conference final. You know, the Clippers have never even reached the conference finals.
You know, I can see that, but my point, and this is one I never would understand. The Western Division probably has the hardest divisions.
You mean the Western Conference?
The Western Conference. Okay, yeah, let's do it that way. The Western Conference is the hardest, and I'm surprised nobody wants to come to the Eastern Division and just go, you know what, I'm going to play here because I know we can build teams here and we can beat the Western Conference because they got to kill themselves out there.
They're going out west because that's where the best teams are and that's where the best players are. I mean, what is left in the Eastern Conference now? Joel Embiid, Gordon Hayward, Jason Tatum, Ben Simmons, Victor Oladipo, who unfortunately is hurt right now, Kyle Lowry, and even though he may not be there much longer, Kawhi Leonard. Other than that, it's like you have to pick and choose who the main guys are for the rest of the teams.
Because I'm also
Giannis Antetokounmpo, of course, who might be the league's most valuable player this year. And, of course, he's also got Malcolm Brogdon as a good sidekick to work with.
You also got Mike Saunders fed up with the T-Wolves.
Well, let's put it this way.
Let's put it this way. Go ahead, Jamie. How do you put it? There's only one way to put it.
Yeah, there is only one way to put it. Don't be surprised if you see Karl Anthony Towns want to pack his bags and leave Minnesota to go someplace else. Because let me tell you, ever since they made the coaching change, things have gone from bad to worse with the T-Wolves. They cannot seem to put together one single long winning streak. Not only that, but defensively, they've just gotten a lot worse. And Karl Anthony Towns, some people are pointing the finger at him, saying that he's the weak link on the team, even though he's their best player.
Of all people, him.
Of all people, him. Even though he's the best player, they're pointing the finger at him.
Now, from an outsider looking in, if you were thinking that way, why would you say that?
Well, it's simple because, for one, he's not getting along great with anybody in the locker room. There are powwows between him and the coach, and that's only off the court. On the court, defensively, they cannot make one simple stop whatsoever. They match up horribly, really horribly with other teams. Other teams, it seems like they can burn them with the three-point shot. That's another thing. They're not defending the three-point shot at all. They've gotten 0 from their backcourt whatsoever.
But wait a minute. I'm talking about him. This is all his fault because they're not playing defense, because they're not doing this.
He's lazy defensively.
That it's all his fault.
It's all his fault.
How do you judge a person saying that it's all his fault?
Look at his body language, either on the court or when he's sitting on the bench. His body language shows a very defeated player and a very lazy player. And also one who, I don't want to say he doesn't care, but it's like he scoffs at trying to do anything to make things right with them and make things better.
So you're saying he's just going through the motions until his contract's up?
I think it's more than just going through the motions. I think he's unhappy. I can honestly say he's really unhappy right now.
Because when Tom Thibodeau was there, I think he was playing a lot better.
Tom Thibodeau was the best thing that could have happened for the Timberwolves. I mean, he was a no-nonsense coach, but a lot of guys really liked playing for him. And you see what happened in the aftermath of his firing from the Bulls and the Timberwolves. I just find it a little coincidental that each team has declined really badly.
Could he be another Buck Showalter that he can last for about 3 or 4 years, and then after that, that's it, because he wants to be coach and GM?
That is a really great comparison, because I remember when Buck was bouncing around from one team to another, he seemed to turn every single team around and make them a contender. And then there was just something about his disciplinarian ways that really rubbed a lot of young guys the wrong way. And then the next thing we knew, he wound up getting sent away. Tom Thibodeau was the same thing. I mean, he was liked at a point by the Bulls, and he made them a really, really, really good contender. I know Derrick Rose really likes playing for him. That's why he went over to Minnesota in the first place.
I don't think he's going to be there now. I mean, he probably has a good chance of winning the sixth-man award. That's for damn sure.
You know who could be the sixth man of the year? Lou Williams from the Clippers. If you want to know why, go back and watch the tape of yesterday's game.
Hey, if he is, put it this way, it'd be really tough to call because, between Lou Williams, D. Rose, because considering that he was supposed to be washed up already because of what happened to him.
Tell you what,
because of his knees and they were giving up on him and so on.
I would say Derrick Rose should be the comeback player of the year.
I would say the same thing if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Considering he played with the Knicks and
he played well on the Knicks, but I think he saw the writing on the wall and decided, you know what, let me hightail it out of here and see if I can go to a contender.
But when he was ready to come back with the Knicks, even he was saying, I can be a really good sixth man coming off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
But because he had knee problems and all that other stuff, they didn't want to take the chance, and they had new guys coming up anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm assuming that happened now.
You've already had one. Oh, good. All you have to do.
So that's what I'm assuming,
Yeah,
that's going to happen.
possibly.
But other than that, that's what I'm assuming that's happening. But
Mm-hmm.
throughout the league, I mean, Simmons got revenge on Giannis. Joel Embiid, huge night.
Yeah, that was the big game in the NBA yesterday. The Sixers and the Bucks, because the Sixers are trying to move up in the conference. The Bucks, if I'm not mistaken, lead the conference by just a few games. And who was it that got the best of the other team yesterday? It was the Sixers, and it was because of Joel Embiid.
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, no. I was thinking, the Knicks are supposed to be losing. What are you winning for?
They're winning because they're sick and tired of losing. I mean, can you really blame them, man? I mean, these are guys who've been with the team all season. They're starving for a victory. They've heard all this talk about lose every single game for the rest of the year so you can get that high draft pick, which is not a guarantee. Naturally, they're going to want to be competitive and want to win a game.
Yes, but you want Zion Williams. You want your balls.
They want, the fans want Zion Williamson. The fans want Zion Williamson. The players want victories.
I'd rather have Zion Williamson because right now some of those guys are showing that they can play basketball if they were in another team. Like Damian Dotson.
Oh, he's long shown that he can play in this league.
Player. He could help a team. Damian Dotson is one of those guys that can help a team.
Of course.
Even Franklin Nikita, Orlando wants him big time. Pat Riley wants him big time.
Orlando or Miami?
Miami, excuse me. Pat Riley wants him big time.
You know why? Because he's a tall 6'5" guard who has a wingspan of somebody that's maybe 7 feet tall and can defend and has the work ethic of someone who belongs in this game.
Oh,
I mean, for every mistake that kid has made this season, he has been busting his tail to try and crack the top of that rotation.
Oh, what did you think of Russell gets his 16th tech of season for bumping number 11.
Yeah,
From the Heat.
that's only just a small token of his bad behavior this season. Did you hear about what happened in Salt Lake City?
Yes, the owner actually had to make an apology because this guy made insulting remark or racist
The guy
remark.
made racist remarks at Russell Westbrook, and in turn, Russell Westbrook wound up threatening to kill the guy.
Yep.
And that's why he got fined.
And the funniest thing about it is, Jamie, when you go out to a game, you can call them bums, you can't shoot, you suck, screw you, your MLL, whatever. You can say some things like that, but you don't go down that route. You don't have to say a racist word unless you're from the fish that saved Pittsburgh.
You know what?
And you're trying to
there are
get
just some people
Welcome
who
back.
don't
the other one.
get it.
But think of it this way: it's not as bad as the guy. Now, let me ask you. Let me ask you this one: which one is worse, the one that happened to him, Russell, or the one that happened to James Dolan, who said get rid of the team.
The racist remarks at Russell Westbrook were 10 times worse.
Well, it must be. It must not be, because James Dolan wants this guy banned too.
He did that fan a favor. That fan will never have to subject himself to any of those atrocities ever again.
But my point is, he should not have to be banned for saying sell the team. You got this man here who said racist remarks, yet you got James Dolan, who got this guy here who's saying sell the team like most people would want him to. Oh, and now he's banned.
Once again, this slime shows his incompetence when it comes to dealing with the fans.
But, Stephon drops 33 points in the OKC game, which is not bad, actually. That's very good. I mean, there's a lot of things happening, with Brooks dropped 40 points and 15 assists in OT game.
Yeah.
It's the New Orleans Saints, New Orleans versus...
You mean the New Orleans Pelicans?
Yeah, the Pelicans versus I forgot whom. But I don't know how, and I don't know how some referees aren't former basketball players.
There's maybe one or two of those that the NBA has employed in the past. Other than that, some basketball players have no desire to be a referee.
They're former policemen, things of that nature. But should that be a full-time? Should that be a full-time job?
Yeah, it should be a full-time job. These guys are working the same type of hours that the players are. They're on the road 6 months out of the year, going from one place to another. They have to sleep in hotels. They have to sleep. Not even in 5-star hotels. Sometimes they have to be in a Holiday Inn or a Comfort Suites or something like that. Whereas the NBA guys, they're living in the lap of luxury. They're when they make their way over here, they're probably staying over at Trump Tower.
Oh, I'm seeing at
the Hotel Pennsylvania.
I'm seeing Raymond Felton doing his best impersonation of Stephon, doing a half-court shot. Funny as all heck. But let me ask you, the Jets and Giants, they've made trades.
Yes.
What do you think of the trades that they're making so far? I think the Jets have improved more than the Giants so far.
Oh, the Jets have improved by leaps and bounds over the Giants. I love the Jets getting Le'Veon Bell. They finally have that every down running back that they can pound the ball to and take some pressure off of Sam Darnold. That's number one. I really like the fact that they were able to get all these guys on defense as well. They've really improved themselves defensively at this rate right now. As for the Giants, 2 words: Odell Beckham. Why? Why would Dave Gettleman say one thing and then say another? Talk out of both sides of his mouth. Trading Odell Beckham Jr. to the Browns, and look at the return that he got. A pair of draft picks and Jabril Peppers, who's a good player, but you've got to get more than just Jabril Peppers, man. I mean, at least get a frontline offensive starter or something.
Okay.
Not only did Dave Gettleman make himself out to be a liar, he also got ripped off.
I'm sure he did, but let's talk money, for instance. I don't know how much each person is making, but they got 3 number ones, I think, and a player to be named later. I'm not sure. But I can say this much. If he was as destructive as they were saying that he was, then why have him in the first place? Oh, you should hear people on ESPN and WFAN. They're going, whoa, we shouldn't got rid of him. Oh, I'm glad we got rid of him. I can't. You know, it's unbelievable.
If you're going to tell me,
you hear sports talk. What do you hear about them? What do you hear about them?
what I hear about Beckham, you mean?
Yeah. What do you hear? Do you hear that they should have traded him? They should have
The
traded
majority
him, or they
of
shouldn't have traded him?
talk that I've heard is that Beckham never should have left in the first place. There was this one guy who thought that it was best to let him go only because he was a medical liability. He could not play a full 16-game season, which is true. By the same token, if you're going to tell me that you're going to trade a guy simply because his biggest crime was spending the week of a playoff game hanging out with Drake, then you have got serious issues, and you have no clue how this world works.
Now, do you think it's a racial thing? Because if Tom Brady were to do that, would it be okay? Or do you just think it's a football issue?
No, this is strictly a football issue. I really don't think Dave Gettleman was being truthful about Odell Beckham Jr. My guess is that he had a little bit of an issue with his personal life and his extracurricular activities outside of the game, as opposed to his play on the field. Because on the field, Odell Beckham Jr., after 5 years, is a first ballot. He looks like a first ballot Hall of Famer. Let's
Plus
get that straight.
Plus the fact that he had a huge contract too.
He was making $19.5 million. Whereas
So
the guy
that's
that they brought in, Jabril Peppers, he's still on his rookie contract.
So that's probably one of the reasons why they have him, so that they can start building. Because I think they're in the rebuilding stage, and I don't think they want to rebuild with him.
Mm-hmm.
So you might as well get rid of him, even though it seems like the Porzingis trade all over again.
Yeah,
You know, you're getting three for one. No, five for one. Was it
2 draft picks and a player for one?
right? No, because it was two. It was two. Yeah, 2 draft picks and 2 players
Mm-hmm.
for Porzingis. But then you remember you have to match money.
Oh, you mean for Kristaps Porzingis?
Yeah.
It was Tim Hardaway Jr.
Tim Hardaway Jr.,
Porzingis too,
and it was someone else because
and Trey Burke.
It was about contracts.
Trey Burke also.
Yeah, Trey Burke.
For DeAndre Jordan and Dennis Smith Jr. and Courtney Lee was involved in the deal as well.
Yeah.
And also Wesley Matthews. So it was a 4-for-3 deal. 7 players were involved in this deal.
Yeah. So they got a. But let me ask you, talking about the Jets, because are they winners or the losers?
The Jets right now look like A-plus winners
Tom
in
Compton,
the offseason.
Ball, Lavernius, what's his name? Laverne Ball, was it?
Wait, what are you talking about?
No, the Jets. You were talking about.
Oh, you mean Le'Veon Bell?
Le'Veon Bell, Tom Compton from the Vikings signed. He's an outer linebacker.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
And he should be able to help them
okay, wait.
in the 4-3.
They have Sam Donaldson, quarterback, Le'Veon Bell at running back, wide receiver, Quincy
Nunwa.
Yeah, Robbie Anderson and Jamison.
You mean
Crowbar?
You mean Jermaine Kearse?
Yes.
I mean, it's
No,
not. I'm not in love with that trio of receivers, but at least Bell would be able to open up the game for that trio in a game.
And tight end is Chris Hamilton. I'm sorry, Hendon. Kevin Beecham at LT at LG is center is Jonathan Harrison.
Mm-hmm.
RG is Brian Winters. RT is Brandon Shell.
Interesting that Brian Winters is still around.
That's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Reason for Jets' $100 million spending spree.
Yeah.
They did it right.
They did it right this time. The only thing
They finally opened up their purses.
But I worry about one thing, and that's whether
defensive.
I do worry about their secondary, though, and they've already cut loose Morris Claiborne and Buster Screen. Although the one constant there is still Jamal Adams, and he's probably their best defensive player by far, with Leonard Williams being a close second. But the one thing that I worry about after these signings, Le'Veon Bell sat out all of last season. Is he going to look rusty once he takes a carry, or is he going to be refreshed after taking such a pounding the first 3 or 4 years of his career?
I say both. And I'll tell you why I say both. Because when you haven't played in a while, you're rusty, but your body is more relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
Since your body didn't take the pounding that it did, then you're more relaxed.
Right.
So yeah, it's kind of a give and take kind of situation where my body's relaxed, it didn't get hurt or anything of that nature, so he is going to be rusty, but it's as if it's a trade-off because the man never had time to heal all the other nicks and pains. It's like being a wrestler. You don't come back for 6 months, and you see, like the Big Show. He doesn't come back for 6 months. You see him with a smaller waist, bigger arms, bigger abs. I mean, everything. Dean Ambrose, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
He comes out all blah, and then all of a sudden you see him with muscle and everything. That's what I'm saying. It's just one of those trade-offs. It's talented today than it was a week ago, but there are still positions that are needed. Okay.
Of course.
Positions?
I still think that the Jets could use a franchise type of receiver that can really, really open the game up for them.
Well, they're saying that they need a center.
Center would be nice because ever since Nick Mangold retired, the Jets have been really, really bare.
Now they're saying that they can get it from the Philadelphia Eagles.
Now that would be interesting.
Stephen Winkowski?
Steve Wisniewski, you mean?
Yeah, Wisniewski, yeah. Steve Wisniewski at center. You would have pass rusher from the Kansas City Chiefs, Justin Houston.
Oh, now that would be a major upgrade if the Jets could get Justin Houston.
Or from Baltimore, Lamar Jackson, or Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson. Or the secondary half of Arrowhead. Oh, yeah, no. Denny Middle. No, that would be it. That's not bad. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you can get that, because I'm reading 5 of the biggest needs according to what one person wrote, and they're a cornerback. They said cornerback Daniel Roberts. And last but not least, Minnesota Vikings Robertson, wide receiver. But they already got I think their defense was good last year. It wasn't that their defense was bad last year. I think their defense was decent last year.
Well, there were times when they got really, really shredded in the secondary. They were really picking apart Morris Claiborne and Buster Screen, who literally did nothing for them in 3 or 4 years with the franchise.
True, but now that you have a decent offense, it should relieve the defense more instead of them being always out there.
That's a really interesting point. Let's see how often the Jets can be on the field per drive. I mean, you need to have a good 10-minute drive to try and keep the opposing defense honest and keep their own defense rested. That way they could have a little bit more freshness to them.
And also, again, going back to the Giants.
Huh.
The draft pick is coming up soon.
I'm telling you right now, that franchise is getting so laughed at and so roasted right now after trading away Odell Beckham Jr. Jim Rome on his CBS Sports show said that the Giants have no clue what they're doing.
I got a question now. You ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Now that the Jets open up their purses to get whoever they have to get, who did they get for number 3?
As a third overall pick?
As a third overall pick, or would you go down and say, you know what, guys, give me 5, 8, and 10. Try to go down the line so you can get more defensive players.
I did hear rumors about them trading down a little bit. But if the Jets were to keep their pick at number 3, I know it's a cliche, but get the best player that's available.
So who would that be? In your case, who would you want at number 3, considering the team that you have now?
I would want to get an impact defensive player. And right now, that kid might be the kid from Kentucky, Josh Fields.
So you're okay with Sam Donaldson at quarterback?
Oh, yes, I'm very okay with Sam Darnold at quarterback.
Now you just want a good defensive rusher that'll go in there and try to get the damn quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Aren't you afraid of the quarterbacks, the guys that got burned?
Not necessarily, because they've only had 1 year, and we really cannot judge them on just a year left. We have to give them at least 5 years in order to try and prove themselves. And I was mistaken earlier on the name. It's actually Josh Allen, who's the kid from Kentucky. Josh Allen's a linebacker.
Well, are the Giants committed to Shepard despite trade rumors?
Are they committed to Sterling Shepard? I would certainly hope so, because after they basically mortgaged their present and their future by trading away Beckham, who's to say that Sterling Shepard is not going to be next?
I mean, if they really want to break down the team and they really want to start from scratch.
If they really wanted to break down the team and start
from
from scratch.
He's not that old, but he's not that young either, is he?
He's only been in the league for about 5 years.
But how old is he? 30 what?
I think he's about 26.
Well, in football years, that's kind of...
He's still a young guy and a very productive guy.
And Odell Beckham, how old was he?
Beckham is around the same age.
And they had your dad... Well, anyway, that doesn't make sense at this point. But like I said, what I heard from ESPN and WFAN and some of those other sports, half of them were going great, great, great. The other one were going, we're glad we got rid of him because he was a distraction. He was this, he was that. He wasn't doing this.
I'm telling
that
you,
man
they
was
really
putting in the work.
He's going to change their mind by the time the new season begins in September.
Well, now he's with the Cleveland Browns. Now
he just made the Browns a contender.
Have number 1 draft picks out of the wazoo. I mean, they should do something this year.
After what they just did, they all of a sudden they've gone from being a laughingstock to being a team that's a lot expected out of them.
I mean, but yeah, because you figure, look how many times they've gotten the number 1 draft pick. I mean, come on.
Quite a few. And they failed miserably with their number 1 picks. Tim Couch, anybody?
Even at that, even when they pick the top guy, they still the guy doesn't work. Something like a jinx.
Yeah.
But now with him being there, maybe he'll lift the jinx or whatever, or as Boston used to say, the curse of the Bambino has been lifted.
Well, we'll see.
But it is 7:55. Boy, we talked a lot about the jinx.
Yeah, we have. It's good though.
But I do want to tell you, thank you for helping me with the show. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
I had a blast watching that show. It was great to have seen our dear friend David return and make a special appearance.
Tam Diaz, the outlaw preacher that he likes to call himself, and his son and his boy there. They were a great time. We had a good time, but it was something. Hey, let me ask you, we got a minute left talking. The Yankees and Mets. How come the two pitchers haven't been signed yet, Gio Gonzalez and Crenshaw yet?
It's simple. They want more money. They want too much money. Dallas Keuchel and Gio Gonzalez, two really good pitchers. Keuchel was a Cy Young winner at one point. Cannot get a job.
So they'll probably start off with not on the team, or do you think they'll sign 1 or 2 year deal, one year deals, try to get as much money as they can in that 1 year, or do you think they'll sit out? Now, is this something? Would you consider this a collusion thing?
It's definitely not collusion. It's just a matter of these guys wanting more money than they really think they're worth.
Well, look how Manny, the guys that bent for Manny Machado and this guy and the Phillies.
Mm-hmm.
They bent backwards over them. They finally broke the bucket and said, you know what, 12 years, 13. I mean, come on. But again, who am I to say?
I would have thought Dallas Keuchel would have been perfect on the Mets, so he could complement Wheeler and DeGrom and Syndergaard and also Steven Matz, but I guess not.
I'm hoping that Keuchel does go to the Mets, which I doubt because they don't like opening up their purses.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope the Yankees get Gio Gonzalez.
That would be a really
great.
Interesting rotation that the Yankees would have.
The Mets would be great, and the Yankees would be great. Finally, two dominant teams, and there's only one problem. Some of the Yankee fans never liked the Met fans never liked it when the Yankees play. Because it's always, if the Yankees win, here they go again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's vice versa. If the Mets win, we'll never hear it now.
Yeah.
But, again, Islanders actually won a big game.
Yeah, last night against Minnesota. Huge overtime victory for them. And who was it once again? It was...
I don't know. You tell me.
It was Matthew Barzal who wound up getting the game-winning goal, and it looks like the Giants are just holding on for that playoff spot. I would still like to see them get the division lead in the Metropolitan. That way they could get a higher seed. But let's just see what happens later.
All right, Jamie. I will talk to you later, brother. Thank you again.
And thank you again, Hector, so much for joining us. Thanks to Kenny on the other side of the glass. And thanks to you guys for watching at home. So for everyone here, I'm Jamie.
I'm Hector.
Good night, everyone. Enjoy March Madness.